It's 48 days away from Friday, 9th of March 2018. And evil has a value of 48. E-V-I-L. L-I-V-E. Same letters rearranged. It's an anagram. And added up by their places in the alphabet, those letters equal 48. Good, bad. What is good? What is bad? Wild. Wild. Rude. Bad brat. Sometimes you do have to be a rude, bad brat in order to escape from evil. Evil is not what it seems. Often, it is not what it seems. 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 is the age of the twins, Daniel and Samuel, in the novel Red Rain by R.L. Stine. Identical twin boys, age 12. Samuel has the gift of pyrokinesis, so he can make fire with his eyes. Daniel, however, is described as the evil twin. He's the one who lusts and craves power over other people, and he's the instigator who eggs Sammy to do things like hypnotize people, because that's something else that Sammy can do with his mind using the same gift. And then Daniel can program them to do whatever he wants. 666 times 3 plus 6 times 3 equals 2016. And that's a couple of years ago now. 2016. Have faith, Josh 10:9:45 was a message I saw written on a piece of paper as I was waking up from a dream. Yeah, I was raised a Catholic, so I didn't immediately, though, connect this with Josh as in Joshua as in Jesus. I actually connected this to a 12-year-old boy at my work. Well, he was 11 at the time. 11 going on 12. Josh was a blonde-haired boy, 11 going on 12, and I connected the message to him because he was the only Josh I knew. So, have faith. Josh 10:9:45. 9:45 seemed to be a time, and that was on Saturday, 12th of May, 2012, when I had that dream, or it's more like something I saw as I was waking up from a dream that I couldn't actually remember. Then, if we take that same date, in 2016, it was a Thursday, 12th of May 2016, add 666 days and you land on Friday, 9th of March 2018, the same date that is 48 days away from today. And my best friend turns 27 on this day, and code equals 27, read by Jake. MN, Minnesota, is where Jake's from, Jacob Wetterling. 2 plus 7 is 9, the 9th of March. I'm an Aussie. What in the realm of politics do I think is evil? Quite a lot in my country, because it mostly has to do with the Department of Immigration and Border Protection. And it's been a long-standing thing in Australia that Australia has been exceptionally cruel to refugees. But I also think politics in itself is extremely divisive, with two teams vying to win elections at all costs. Everything else is secondary, and that definitely includes compassion, human rights, and all the rest. Climate change denial in 2018 amounts to willful ignorance for political purposes. That's in my opinion. And this is evil, in my opinion, given that deadly and destructive extreme weather events, including heat waves, floods, and bushfires, are getting much worse, in my opinion. I know there are some people out there that would have a different opinion on that topic. I dare not say fact. 666. The time is 666. I did have a dream where the time was 666, and in that same dream, there was a 12-year-old boy jumped out of my wardrobe, stood on my bed, and said, "Satan's in your room." Which was a little bit alarming, but turned out he wasn't too bad. More like a prankster than someone to be afraid of. Cruelty to refugees, giving them no realistic options other than to remain in offshore processing centres for several years, that's cruel and evil. Because a lot of them are cut off from their loved ones. And that is very evil to do that to people. And this 6-year-old devilish boy obviously agrees. Refusing offers from other more compassionate countries like New Zealand to accept refugees. Well, that's very evil. Because now you've got someone that's offering to be nice to people and you're saying, no, we won't let you be nice to these people, we want to be cruel to them. That's just being sadistic. It's not just being mean, it's being sadistic. Playing politics with people's lives is evil. Truly. And yeah, there was a clock in my dream flashing the time 666. As the boy is standing on my bed saying, Satan's in your room. It's quite an announcement, really. Demonizing people for their race, skin color, country of birth, or religion is evil. And no one's better at doing that than Donald Trump, the current President of the United States, and Little Trump, as they call the Minister for Immigration and Border Protection, and now the Minister for Home Affairs in Australia, Peter Dutton MP. Oh. There you go. That's how people end up looking if they're the victims of evil for too long. The failing of the federal government to condemn or officially respond to the slaughter of people like the Rohingya Muslims. I should have said where they are. They're in Myanmar, which is not that far from Australia. I mean, it's more in our backyard than America's backyard, because Myanmar is in Asia. It's near India. It's actually next door to Bangladesh, and there's been thousands of people slaughtered there by the military and Australia's government. Well, as I've said, to continue with business as normal with a military that has committed textbook ethnic cleansing is extraordinarily evil. Even Gollum is shocked by that news. And obviously the boys who have been thrown into fires and burned to death, they're not impressed. Not impressed with the people who did that to them, and not impressed with the people who have shown complete indifference to their extreme human suffering. Because that is not exactly what you'd call really Christian, if Christian is meant to be about what's good. Maybe it's not. Cutting people off from loved ones, best friends, and partners for no good reason is cruel and evil, and calls into serious question the alleged benefits of democracy and freedom. It also calls into question religion and what religion teaches, given that there are so many religious hypocrites who are very cruel. And it's actually something I talked about with my counsellor, who I was seeing for 3 years. And I made a lot of progress with my counsellor, but it was sort of pretty much all undone by the cruelty that I experienced at the hands of Immigration and Border Protection when I applied for a partner visa, and after 18 months of being totally ignored, they rejected it. So I lost 10 grand on top of losing my partner, which is pretty bad. And that great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He and his angels were thrown down with him. Interesting. Because the people that have been really cruel to me, and I've seen the same people inflict extreme cruelty on others, they call themselves Christians. They believe in God and they go to church. So it's really weird. It does lead you to question a lot of things, actually, including what is evil. Well, I can tell you one thing that's evil. These people who chained their kids up in their own house and didn't let them out at all. Didn't even let them out of bed to use the toilet. Didn't even let them shower. Yeah, look at the lives of 13 siblings held captive in a house full of chains. And what comes next? Well, if you read this whole story, it's pretty disturbing, to say the least. And it's hard to understand how, on the one hand, it's hard to understand how this could happen in America, in California. But then when you look at what the American government is doing right now in the way it's treating refugees, it becomes a little easier to understand how everyone can be oblivious to such horrors, such cruelty being inflicted right there in the world's great free nation, as it's called. The siblings' grandparents told ABC News that during the children's homeschooling, they were made to memorize long scriptures of the Bible, with some memorizing the entire book. There you go. Like I said, I was discussing with my counsellor, what is it that there seems to be a link between religion and extreme sadism. Something I've noticed, not just with Christianity, but with every religion. The parents would buy food for themselves, but prohibit the children from having any, with the exception of the 2-year-old who was getting enough to eat. Sometimes, authorities said the parents would buy apple or pumpkin pies, leave them on the counter, and let them go uneaten, prohibiting the children from tasting them. Yeah, it's pretty disturbing what these people went through for years and years and years, chained up, not even able to, it's scary. It's scary that this can happen in California, in a suburban street, next door to anyone that is evil, and you're looking at evil right there. Pure evil. Police said they were perplexed. This lady was perplexed when they started asking questions about why the kids were all chained up to their beds. She was perplexed. Yeah. On a different note, weather. Extreme weather. California's had its... Southern California, that's where these guys are. If we have a look at where that is actually. Paris, California, that's exactly where they lived in the United States. It's currently 4:32 p.m. there. And that same part of the world has just been smashed with bushfires and floods. There's devastation, there's heaps of people being killed, dozens and dozens are dead from both the fires and the mudslides and the flooding. Australia? I think Australia's already suffering. There were 7 people died from heart attacks from the heat in Melbourne and Adelaide just a few days ago. If we look at the weather forecast of the coming week, I'm near Canberra, so I'm going to try to bring up Canberra's forecast. Okay, so it's 38 today, where I live. It's a hot week coming up, but Canberra's forecast isn't what concerns me. The date I flagged as the next date to watch is that one there, Tuesday 23rd of January. And it is looking ominous in our part of the world because the winds are getting up. With all this heat and then chance of thunderstorms, that's not a good combination when it comes to bushfires. It's bad. And bushfires is one of the biggest risks that Australia faces, I think, with climate change, because our rainfall patterns are changing. We're getting more rain in summer, which is leading to more fuel build-up. Fuel is, of course, one of the things you need for fires. Look at Adelaide's forecast over the next week. look what happens next weekend. That's freaking hot again. And Adelaide is kind of the direction from which our weather comes, so it makes you wonder, how long is this heat going to go on for? Not that Canberra's copped it too bad yet. Melbourne. Good the next few days, but then they too go wham next weekend. So heat, like I was saying, fuel is one of the things that bushfires need. They need fuel, they need heat. Both those things are increasing with climate change. In my observation, there is definitely more rainfall happening in summer and less rain in winter where I live. And that's leading to more growth. So that's dangerous. And that's just where I live. That climate change is having all kinds of impacts. And by climate change, I mean global warming, the type that's been caused by humans. So it's a pretty ordinary looking weather map, except what's not ordinary is the heat. It's just getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And this is a La Nina summer. This is the one where we're supposed to be cooler than normal. And it's a bit scary to see what's happening, in my opinion. Climate change denial, like I said, is becoming an evil choice in 2018. Because it's getting past the point where you can claim to be ignorant of what's happening. And I don't imagine that everyone was completely ignorant of what was happening in this house. Sometimes people just don't want to know. They see things and they're like, nah, it's none of my business. But government, of course, encourages that these days. Government encourages people to cut off from others. And especially children. Because they let kids be routinely abused for years in institutions and in the name of Christianity, and in the, it was sickening. The amount of kids that have been sexually and physically abused is sickening. Then they want to bring in laws that any adult who talks to a kid they don't know is going to be immediately under suspicion of grooming. So everything goes from one extreme to the other extreme. Governments are no good at common sense at all. So any adult now that notices a kid's in trouble, who notices that, oh, these people seem a bit sus as parents, well, you're not going to say anything, are you? Because to show an interest in someone else's children these days is considered weird. And that's true. It is. People are afraid to show any interest in kids who are not their own kids. Unless it's in a perfectly professional setting, and unless it's like a family member. And yeah, you do have to protect kids against predators who groom prior to perpetrating abuse. The problem is when you bring in new laws against grooming, it doesn't stop the predators, it just stops the good people who want to look out for kids. So it's actually creating another whole trap and another whole problem on top of all the existing problems. And that seems to be all that government is good at doing. It doesn't solve the existing problems, it's no good at that. It's good at creating new ones with new laws that don't work. Common sense. Common sense, love, compassion, that's what is important. Having a good heart. And I'm afraid there's no evidence of people having a good heart in the governments of today. In the Western world, which is meant to be the good example for the world of freedom and democracy. And all I can see is people showing examples of how to hate. And the truth is, when they throw those little boys into the fires to burn in Myanmar, the military, in their minds they are burning Satan. They are burning the other. They are burning the rejected one, the demonized one of the Bible. So no, I'm not in the least bit scared of Satan, nor am I scared of coincidences or reflections in nature. What does scare me are heartless people in positions of power who seem to enjoy having power over others and being cruel.